You're listening to the Greeks Gridiron, live with Ethan Hristodoulou.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to more of the Greeks Gridiron. I'm Ethan Hristodoulou, and today, as we do every Thursday, we are making our picks for week number 10 of the NFL, going over my winners, some of the score predictions, some of the betting odds that I like, and everything else in between. So make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and comment down below. Who do you think is coming out winners in this week's slate of games? I'm currently 83-53, and since week 4, because the first 3 weeks were really rough on me, we have been killing it. I have had no less than double-digit correct predictions every single week since week number 4. This is, I think, the first time I'm mentioning this because I didn't want to kill the streak of this happening, and I'm sure that ends this week with me mentioning it, but I wanted to bring it up because I wanted to let you guys know that we are rolling right now. So, without further ado, let's dive in. We're talking Falcons and Panthers, Thursday Night Football tonight. Got ourselves a few hours until kickoff here. And this is a rematch of a Week 8 game and it's funny because I'm hearing a lot of people kind of just like roll over this game and be like, oh, yeah, another good Thursday Night Football matchup. This one ended 37-34 in overtime, thrown helmet and all that cost the Panthers a victory. This could be another fun game here. While I don't expect it to be quite the barn burner it was that first time around, I think this is going to be another fun matchup between two division rivals. The Panthers, who, despite losing a lot of games this year, have been in some tight contests, against the Falcons especially, and I think that this one ends up being another tighter contest here. The over-under at this one's set at 41.5, and if I was to pick a betting odd for this game, that over-under feels very attractive to me. My scoreline for this one's at 28-24, and I'm giving the victory to the Falcons here. I think they get the job done. I know that they kind of almost blew this game away against the Panthers a few weeks ago, but realistically speaking, when it comes to just overall the offense that I trust the most, I trust the Falcons, I think, a little bit more than I do the Panthers right now, which is so many questions up in the air, whereas the Falcons are kind of in the thick of things right now for first place in the NFC South. So I do favor the Falcons here 28-24. I like them getting the job done, and I definitely think crossing the over of 41.5 is certainly doable between these two teams, considering they logged up, I believe, 70 points the last time they met up. I definitely think 41.5 is a little bit of a low bar considering where they wound up last time. Next game we're looking at here is the Seahawks and the Buccaneers. This one's in Munich, Germany, and the Seahawks at 6-3 are plus 2.5 underdogs. This is my bet to hammer here because I am going to jump out and say it. I am taking the Seahawks for the victory in this game, and I have them winning 21-17. When I look at this game here, the biggest thing that sticks out to me is going to be just the team's ability to score flat out and straight up. Tampa Bay is currently 25th in the league right now, averaging about 18 points a game, where the Seahawks are currently 4th in the league, averaging about 27 points a game here. I just don't know if Tampa Bay, the way the offense has been the last, couple of months now of football, that I think they can keep up if Seattle starts to get rolling here on offense. Their running backs have been looking really good. Kenneth Walker has been an outstanding young guy that's popped up for this offense here. Obviously, Geno Smith is doing his thing. Tyler Lockett has been a problem here. I think that my biggest question, if I had one for the Seahawks, ultimately is going to be, can they protect Geno Smith against a Tampa Bay pass rush that is currently 5th in the league in sacks per games, averaging 3.22 a game? But overall, I really like the Seahawks in this game. They're really effective on the ground. They're really effective through the air. And Tampa Bay is not necessarily great at stopping the run themselves. And I just feel like, how on earth are the Seahawks underdogs going into this game after the way we've watched the Buccaneers basically stumble and trip all over the place to 4-5, leading a division right now that is arguably probably the worst in football at this very moment, considering their first place team is sub 500. Looking at the Vikings and the Bills now, moving into the 1 p.m. window of Sunday's games here. For this game to be at a 1 o'clock window, kind of a shame. I would love for it to even if it was just in the afternoon time slot, but it is what it is. Bills are sitting at 6-2. Vikings are sitting at 7-1. And obviously questions surrounding Josh Allen and whether or not he's going to be able to play. I know the Bills are playing this one tight to the vest. They're not really they're not letting anybody know what's going on here. Josh Allen himself is apparently telling teammates that he plans to be ready to go on Sunday. Knowing the type of competitor Josh Allen seems to be, I would probably bet on him playing as well. I just have a hard time believing in a game where you're going up against essentially the record-wise the second best team in the NFC. You might have a real reason to want to be in this game and be there for your team. And I think Josh Allen's the type of guy that's willing to play through some pain, And you have two teams, man, both defenses, top 10 in opponent's scoring percentage. Per drive. And then on top of that, sacks a game, turnovers forced a game. They're both top 5. This is like a showdown, match made in heaven type of game, and you're getting it in the 1 o'clock window. I expect Josh Allen to play, and with that in mind, I am going to take the Buffalo Bills for this game in a tightly knit contest, 28-27. Buffalo is still a -3.5 favorite at the time of me recording this, and like I said, I do expect Josh Allen to play. I don't know how much that UCL injury is going to bother him, but I do expect him to play. It's something he's dealt with before in his career previously. Back, I believe, from what I heard, it was like in 2018 he was dealing with the same injury, so he's played through it, so he kind of has an idea as to how this is going to go for him. I still think the Bills are a little bit more of a complete team, and they get the job done. It ends up being a very tight contest, though. I think the Bills are really got to grind to get the victory here in this game. Now, for the Lions and the Bears in Chicago, this game over-under set at 48.5, and I would definitely take the over on this one despite how high the number actually is, because you have two teams right now where defense is not necessarily a strong suit, and Chicago the last 3 weeks, they're averaging about 31 points a game and 243 rushing yards a game. That is absolutely ridiculous. Detroit themselves averaging 148 yards rushing this season alone. In the last 4 games, they're sitting at about 104. I think this one ends up being a high-scoring affair. The Lions' defense has obviously been really, really bad, and Chicago, aside from like the Patriots game, defense has not really been their strongest suit. They just let up 49 points to the Cowboys not too long ago. And while I'm not saying that the Lions are as good as the Cowboys are, the Lions offense has been able to move and find their way into the end zone against some inferior defenses. And I think that this game has all the makings to be a very high-scoring contest, but I do have the Chicago Bears coming out victors at home in this one here, and that's probably the biggest reason why, and the most appealing reason, is they are playing in Chicago. I like the Bears 33-31. I do expect this to be somewhat of a shootout, and with the way that Chicago has finally established their offense as a very ground-heavy attack where they're able to rely on passes in situations that they need, I like the matchup in their favor. I think Detroit is just, they have no idea how to stop a team on defense right now, and I don't really think it's going to start this week with a rushing attack that has been bulldozing through defenses the last few weeks altogether. Moving into our next game now, we're looking at the Broncos and the Titans here, another 1 o'clock game. Big question mark around Ryan Tannehill, obviously dealing with his ankle injury. Tennessee right now, without him under center, is averaging a whopping, and I say that with the utmost sarcasm, 48.5 yards per game. I don't really know if going up against a Denver defense that is currently 9th in total sacks with 24, they're only allowing a league-leading low of 165 passing yards a game and a league-leading half a passing touchdown a game, that this really bodes well for Tennessee if Ryan Tannehill is not under center. Malik Willis clearly going through the rookie waves, or whatever you want to call it. He's working his way through, treading water, trying to figure out, just how everything works and operates in this NFL world. And I think that without Ryan Tannehill, the Titans are definitely in trouble going into this game here, but you're luckily enough going up against a Denver team that, not necessarily the strongest against the run, allows 123 rushing yards a game currently, and you boast one of the best rushing attacks in the league with one of the best, if not the best, running back in the league in Derrick Henry. I think that Tennessee, with Ryan Tannehill, has a far better shot of winning this game, but even without Ryan Tannehill, if you can get somewhere close to that 300 and some odd yards you had a couple of weeks ago rushing, Tennessee can still come out victors in this game, and I do pick them for the win, and I have them winning 23-20. They're -2.5 favorites right now, and I can't really believe in Denver right now. As good as their defense has been through the air, the bread and butter for the Titans is on the ground, and that's not necessarily Denver's strong suit, so I do think that the Titans can take advantage of that. I also believe in Mike Vrabel as a head coach a hell of a lot more than I do Nathaniel Hackett, and I trust that Vrabel is going to have his team ready to go. They're in Tennessee, so that feels really good for me too. A safe pick, I'd say, going with Tennessee at home, picking the better coach of the two. I like the Titans coming out with the victory, again, 23-20. Now, the Jaguars and the Chiefs, this one here, Kansas City, minus 9.5 favorites, massive margin here, and one that I definitely think is reachable. I'm not 100% certain on this one here. This is like, I feel like winning by almost 10 points is definitely within Casey's realm of possibility going up against the Jaguars, but I could also see the Jaguars pulling off some sneaky nonsense and keeping the game a little bit closer than maybe you would expect it to be, but this is definitely a trap game for KC without a doubt. You do not want to overlook the Jaguars because despite the fact that they're 3-6, they are able to move the football if you give them the opportunity to. Kansas City definitely needs to focus on stopping the run. That is Jacksonville's stronger suit there. They're 7th in the league when it comes to rushing yards, and obviously Jacksonville not necessarily doing the best on offense, but Kansas City, interestingly enough, for as good as they've been this year, not necessarily the best at defending the pass. They're allowing about 250 yards a game, which is 25th in the league, or 24th in the league. So if Jacksonville ever found a team that they could pass the football on, it might just be the Chiefs, and they might be able to, like I said, keep this game a little bit closer. Makes things a little bit easier for Trevor Lawrence if the secondary is struggling, although Trent McDuffie has not allowed a single completion since coming from the IR and being able to play. He has 45 snaps altogether and not a single completion allowed. So there is that, someone coming on strong. Maybe that number starts to trend in the correct direction for Kansas City, and maybe the Jacksonville Jaguars can't move the football. But I do like the Chiefs winning this game. I have them winning 35-21. I have them winning by that 10 points that they need there. Again, minus 9.5 is the favorites, or is the spread right now for the Kansas City Chiefs as favorites. And I have them winning by 14. I definitely think it's doable, but like I said, the Jaguars, they're a weird team. I could see them keeping it closer just for whatever reason, for the sake of just making sure that Vegas gets a win off something that people expect to happen. Now, looking at the Browns and the Dolphins here. Miami minus 3.5 favorites. You have a Browns team currently sitting at 3-5. Not necessarily doing the absolute best in the world right now. They're basically just trying to hold it down till Deshaun Watson gets back, and then their offense, from their point of view, will finally take off and maybe turn things around for them for this season. However, the Dolphins right now, with Tua Tagovailoa starting and finishing games, is 6-0 in leading the number 2 passing attack in the NFL, averaging just shy of 300 yards at 294 a game. I don't really know if the Browns offensively can keep up with the Dolphins if things start to get out of hand. They do obviously have a really good rushing attack, and the Dolphins' run defense is like middle of the pack right now. They're 15th in the league with 117 yards a game. I could see the Browns keeping this a little bit closer, but again, we're in a passing league, and the Dolphins have been able to really air things out with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and I just don't know if the Browns and Jacoby Brissett, if the Dolphins really start to get rolling, are going to be able to manage that and keep up with that. I have the Dolphins winning 30-20. I think they win this game somewhat handedly, or it'll end up being something along the lines of, like, let's say 23-20 in the fourth quarter, and then the Dolphins get like a back-breaking, 60-yard touchdown catch from Tyreek Hill, or just a nice long drive to close out the game and finish things off. Maybe the score looks a little bit further apart than the game actually was. I know the Browns are really good at keeping things close. Their team is solid. They're dealing with holes in the wrong places right now. So they have an excellent running game. I think it keeps them in the game, but I like the Dolphins coming away with that 30-20 victory. Now, the Texans going to New York to take the Giants here. The Texans are a team currently sitting at 1-6-1 that likes to play hard attack every single week. This is a team that keeps things closer than they need to be. They left people talking last week with, why didn't the Eagles completely blow out a Texans team? Well, I feel like the Texans are the perennial trap team every single week, and I've been saying this for a large part of the season here. They're a team that likes to play games a lot closer than they should be and keep people on their toes until the end of the game. And it's the Texans. They lose all the time. At least they have been for the last few years, but they're in it more often than they're not, and it's close losses. Now, the Giants, this is a bounce back opportunity for them. They definitely need this victory here, and I expect them to get the victory as well. You're going up against a Texans team that's kind of racing their way into a number 1 selection, and I just want to see the Giants go out there and do what they do best. Move the ball on the ground, allow Daniel Jones to do his things, but open things up with Saquon Barkley. The Texans' run D allows a whopping 180 yards a game. They are one of the worst run defenses in the league, and the Giants' bread and butter is that running game. So I want to see the Giants come out, control the game, control the clock, control everything with their running attack, and just do what they do best. Don't get cute. Don't do anything crazy. Don't let the Texans hang in there like they do with a lot of teams. Just go in there, do what you know you can do best, and let's get back in the win column and just continue on with what has been a really good and surprising season for the Giants. I have them winning 23-13. I think their defense is good enough to hold the Texans at bay, and the offense has had some games where they've kind of left me kind of scratching my head, but the defense has been the real strength of this team, and I expect them to withhold the Texans to under that 15 mark or so, keep them at 13, and they come away with that 23-13 victory. Now, looking at the Saints and the Steelers, I sat here for a while looking at this game, to be completely honest. Tough one to decide on because the Steelers and the Saints, both teams, 6 losses, not really a lot going for them right now. However, I think I like the Saints a lot more than I do the Steelers right now. The Steelers defense has their work cut out for them going up against a Saints team that has been able to score about 24 points a game, where their defense, the Steelers that is, allowing about 25 a game, not necessarily looking the best. This is a defense that has not been as good as it has been in years past. Obviously, missing TJ Watt is a big proponent in that, and we are all learning just how important of a piece he is on the defensive side of the football for Pittsburgh. But on top of that, the Saints defense, man, this Pittsburgh offense has not really been able to do a ton, and you're now going up against a Saints defense that is 10th in the league in stopping teams on third down, whereas you're a team that can barely convert on third down as it is. The Steelers convert on about 1 of every 3 third down attempts, which does not lead to a lot of success, hence the 2-6 record that we're staring at. Now, I will say this, the Steelers do have a glimmer of hope. New Orleans allows points on about 41.4% of their drives, which is 27th in the league. Not great, but bodes well for the Steelers. Pittsburgh not necessarily wants to get into the end zone or even kick field goals very often and put points on the board, but you're going up against a team that tends to allow some points here and there, so maybe the Steelers have a shot. However, I think I believe in the Saints a little bit more than I do the Steelers right now. Andy Dalton, for what it's worth, has been solid. He's had a few games here and there that have been like, why is this guy still starting? But for the most part, has been fairly solid. I have the Saints winning 29-17. The Saints are minus 1.5 favorites in this game. I think that's an easy one to hammer away when you're asking for only basically 2 points of a victory. That does not really seem like a stretch to ask for, and definitely something I think is doable. And I have the Saints winning by 12. So that's how you know how I feel about that one right there. I like the Saints. I think they get the W. It is in Pittsburgh for what it's worth, but I just don't really know where this Steelers team stands right now. And this is one that I feel like I could be wrong about. Maybe the Steelers come out and upset. Again, it is in Pittsburgh, but I've got a feeling for the Saints in this game. Now, the Colts and the Raiders, this one is like, I wish I didn't have to pick this game because in all honesty, I really don't know who's going to come out the victor in this game here. You have a Colts team right now that is in just an absolute mess. And then you have a Raiders team that is nowhere near where everyone, like they're 2-6 right now. And I'm sure everyone kind of thought 6-2 would have been a lot more likely than 2-6 at this point in the season. Vegas is -6 favorites, and with the way the Colts offense looked going up against that Patriots team last week, I don't really expect a lot from Indy going into this week with a new play caller on offense, Jeff Saturday being the head coach. I really don't know what to expect. You couple that with the fact that the Colts are pretty much leading the league in sacks allowed right now, and they let up 9 sacks against 0 blitzes against the Patriots last week, according to Pro Football Reference. That is absolutely ridiculous. That is 4-man rushes all day long, and you're still bringing down the quarterback like every other play, it feels like. I just don't have a lot of hope right now for the Colts. So I'm going to take the Raiders. I have them winning 26-10. I think the Colts might be able to find an end zone, find a touchdown, maybe 2 in this game, maybe 2, but I think they find their way into the end zone at least once. But ultimately, I think this is a good bounce back opportunity for the Raiders. Max Crosby should have a pretty solid game here, being able to take advantage of a Colts offensive line that has just not looked really good at all. Barring some unforeseen circumstance of, Jeff Saturday comes in and flips things around and suddenly we're talking a top 5 O-line again for Indy, but I just don't really see that happening. The Cowboys and Packers now. The revenge game for Mike McCarthy. The Packers this year on offense have just been a really tough group to watch, and I don't really know if I can see them coming out victors in this game going up against a Cowboys defense that has just been so good for the majority of the year. Dallas right now is only allowing about 17 points a game, which is third in the league, and Green Bay is only scoring about 17 points a game, which is 27th in the league. So things are not looking too good already just with that number alone there. Surprisingly, though, and this is something I'll be watching during this game because I'm very interested in seeing how this matchup works out here. It feels like the Packers O-line is worse than this, but for some reason the numbers kind of tell you otherwise. Green Bay is tied for 7th in sacks per game allowed right now. They're only averaging about 2 sacks a game. Oddly enough, I thought that number would be higher when I looked at it, but it's only 2. Dallas, however, leading the league with about a little bit more than 4 sacks a game. I'm interested in seeing how this Packers O-line holds up against what has been a vicious Dallas defensive front, and I think that's going to be a big determining factor in how this game turns out. If Green Bay can at least slow things down between Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence, they may have a chance of winning this game and stealing a victory, even though they are at home. I would definitely say they're underdogs in this one. The spread also, Dallas -5, would argue that they are the underdogs as well. But Green Bay should definitely try to see if they can keep that defensive front at bay and look to take advantage of Dallas's run D. That's where their real weakness is. They're allowing about 135 yards a game on the ground. They're at, 24th in the league. So something that the Packers have actually had some pretty solid success with ends up being a somewhat of a weakness for this Dallas defense. However, though, with all that being said, I do think that the Cowboys come out victors in this game here. Mike McCarthy gets his revenge in Green Bay to the tune of a 28-14 victory. For what I've seen from the Packers this whole season so far and them struggling against lesser defenses, they literally put up 9 points against the Lions last week, and they're probably the worst defense in the NFL right now. I don't really know how you go from worst defense to one of the best defenses in the league, arguably the best defense in the league, especially defending the pass, and doing any better. So 28-14, give me the Cowboys. Big victory in Lambeau and a much needed one for the Cowboys in their pursuit of winning the NFC East if they can catch those Philadelphia Eagles. Now, the Cardinals and the Rams, this one here, I really don't know who to go after in this either because you have obviously Matthew Stafford dealing with a concussion potentially right now. He's in concussion protocol. Then you have Kyler Murray, who had just popped up today, hamstring injury. We may see 2 backup quarterbacks duking it out in this NFC West matchup. Both teams with only 3 victories at the moment. I don't really know who comes out the winner in this game. There's so much up in the air right now. I have a feeling that we're not going to see Matthew Stafford. If he just got put into the concussion protocol recently, don't really see how that's going to work out for them and having Matthew Stafford play on Sunday. And then there's just been so many things that I don't really like about the Cardinals that makes me want to pick against them as well. So when I was looking at everything, the biggest thing that really stands out to me, and if they're not even going to have Matthew Stafford, I can't imagine it gets any better. The Rams are only averaging about 16 points a game, whereas the Cardinals are averaging about 23 a game. So I think I'm going to give the edge to the Cardinals here. I think they get a victory inside LA. The Rams are currently -1.5 favorites right now, so I definitely think Cardinals +1.5 is something that I could see them definitely winning. So give me the Cardinals in an upset victory in LA. Now, the Chargers and the 49ers. This is a fun one here, and it's also an interesting one. And one that I'm a little bit concerned about for the Chargers, and it mainly has to do with the health of the roster. There are just so many injuries piling up for the Chargers at this moment. I don't really know if they can come away with a victory in this game, especially with the fact that it's in San Francisco. You're away. You're already dealing with the crowd and everything as is. Underdogs, they're -7 in this, or excuse me, they're +7 underdogs in this game. 49ers are -7 favorites. You have, obviously, Bosa's out. Slater's out. Guyton is out. Mike Williams was announced as being out for the game as well. Keenan Allen is currently questionable. Who on earth besides and Donald Parham Jr. I think is also out as well. You have Gerald Everett and like Josh Palmer as the two people that you can throw to, and then a handful of other guys that you're just going to be hoping can work your offense for you. I don't really know if Keenan Allen misses this game, there's any real shot that the Chargers come away with a victory. I like their defense. They have a lot of really good guys, but the 49ers are like the complete opposite of them. They're getting really healthy at the right time, coming off of a bye as well. So they're well rested, well prepared for this game. And you're in San Francisco. I think I'm going to go with the 49ers on this one here. And it mainly just has to do with the health of the roster. If this was a healthier Chargers team, I'd probably feel a little bit differently about things. But I do think that with how the Chargers struggles against the run and the 49ers' effectiveness running the ball as well, I'm going to take San Francisco. I have them winning 27-23 in a solid victory here. Could be a little bit tighter. It could be a wider margin as well. Like I said, the betting odds currently have San Francisco as -7 favorites. I mean, could I see a situation where the Chargers just struggle against what is a very good defense over there in San Francisco? They can't really move the ball a ton. You have a bunch of guys that are not necessarily the guys you want to have on the field in this matchup here. I could definitely see that margin being a lot wider. So I'm giving the Chargers a little bit of benefit of the doubt, but I like the 49ers 27-23. And then lastly, we're looking at the Commanders and Eagles for Monday Night Football here, and I've got to say, the Eagles, man, talk about a fun team to watch so far this year. 8-0, they're 5-3 against the spread. They are currently -11 favorites going into this game here, and that's definitely something I could see as being a possibility. Eagles rank from top 5 to top 10 in just about like every major offensive statistical category you could imagine. When you go through the numbers there, they are literally within that top 5 to 10 range in just about everything. Whereas when you look at the Commanders' offense, definitely not the same situation. They're dealing with injuries and Taylor Heineke, who has had some up and down games, and the offense altogether has just been up and down in terms of putting points on the board. It is what it is. You can argue that they had the Vikings last week and the referee, blocking the defender and what have you. And aside from all of that, I don't think the Commanders are quite there yet. If Chase Young was playing in this game, I'd feel a little bit better about the Commanders, but I just don't really know if they can get it done, especially with this game being in Philadelphia. I'm just heavily leaning into the Philadelphia Eagles for this game. This could be a little bit of a trap game here with everything that I've said. This is like the Eagles are super heavy favorites. You have a team that's dealing with some injuries, guys that are supposed to be coming back sooner than later. The offense hasn't been quite where you want it to be, but I think the Eagles get the job done. I have them winning 27-17. I will say, though, this. Despite the fact that I have the Eagles winning by 10, that Commanders plus 11, definitely an attractive one to go after here. If it was plus 10, different story. But because they give you that extra point, plus 11, for the Commanders to lose within that 11-point range, I think is definitely possible. It's a divisional matchup. The game could end up being a little bit closer, where, say, the Commanders lose by like 7 or so. Definitely an outcome I could see happen there. But I have those Eagles 27-17, but keep an eye on that plus 11, see where that moves around, or maybe just try to lock it in right now if you can. I like Commanders plus 11. That's a pretty attractive spread bet, I'd say, for this week, all things considered, it being a divisional matchup between those two teams. But those are my picks for this week. I would love to hear what you guys think in the comment section down below. That's it for me. I appreciate you guys for hanging out and watching. I will see you guys in the next video. Have a good one.